In a world where it seems like everybody has a great idea, how do you get people to listen to your idea? It could be a script, a news story, or even an idea for a character for a film or TV role. The most common and effective method for turning the ideas floating around your head into a reality is pitching. And believe it or not, there's an art to it. For today's program, we've enlisted someone who's mastered the art of the pitch, and she's going to reveal some of the secrets that have helped her land acting roles, her own TV series, and development deals with the likes of Amazon. Hello and welcome. I'm SAG-AFTRA Executive Vice President Ben Whitehair. Thank you all so much for joining us for another SAG-AFTRA program on YouTube. We are joined today by American Sign Language interpreter Mara Bassani Santamaria. As a reminder, today's program is being recorded, and you can watch the replay on SAG-AFTRA's YouTube channel, along with a vast catalog of other great content. Before the first commercial silent film hit the silver screen over 100 years ago, someone had to pitch it. The first producer had to convince investors to put up money for the production and that the masses would spend their hard-earned money to see it. The idea is still the same today, but pitching methods have had to evolve as the media industry has fractured into different distribution models and platforms. Joining us today is the person some in the industry have dubbed the pitch whisperer. So let's please welcome our guest, Sarah Seeds. Sarah, thank you so much for being here.
Hi, I'm so glad to be here. I'm so excited to talk about this too. And it's good to see you, Ben.
Thank you. It's good to see you. For those of you who don't know, Sarah is a bicoastal actress, writer, and producer who has appeared in web series, films, off-Broadway plays, national voiceover campaigns, and her very own TV series, Writing the D with Dr. Seeds. She's a member of the Television Academy, is on the New York local SAG-AFTRA board, and is also a senior member of the SAG-AFTRA Next Gen Performers Committee, near and dear to my heart. Yeah. During the pandemic, Sarah started a business making pitch decks for others after making her own for years, which is one of the many reasons we've asked her to help us create and present this program. Sarah, let's get this pitch started.
Let's go. All right, let's get the pitch going, you guys. And you know what? The pitch is back. You know what I'm saying? That's back, the title of our it's our title of our presentation today, which is one of my favorite titles of all time. The pitch is back. So let's get into it. What is a pitch? Okay. So a lot of people don't really know what exactly a pitch is. And the best way I can describe it is as thus. It's a conversation and opportunity to get an idea across. It's a chance to have another person, entity, network, and future collaborator. That's what they are, to help make your idea come to life. Most importantly, it's a chance for people to get to know you, because you are the most important part of the equation. You're the one who created the idea. You're the person behind it. It's all about you and your idea. And what is a pitch deck? This is just a one I kind of mock up because it's not an idea that I'm trying to sell or any of my clients are selling currently. So this is a visual representation of your fleshed out ideas. That's what a pitch deck is, just a visual representation of your fleshed out ideas. So this is kind of an example of a quick pitch. Now I'm going to do this in about, I think, 5 or 6 steps. It's a lot. So just, take your time with the material and, feel free to reread everything, pause the video, whatever you need to do. Step 1 is the idea. Obviously, it all starts with the idea and wanting to tell a story. Everyone has their own life experiences, what makes them tick, what scares them, what enthralls them, what their fantasies are. It can vary from true to life to very abstract. It really can. Look what's on television today and movies today. Some things are very slice of life. Some things are completely crazy and interesting and abstract, and that's okay. They all have a valid place in our lexicon. And as SAG-AFTRA members, most importantly, we have a professional artistic network all around us that can empower us. It's greatly empowered me, which I will get into. So why not tell our stories? Step 2, flesh out the idea. Always start with the overarching idea, the genre, the characters, the story. The log line, I'm sure you've heard that before, is where everything begins. And an entire idea can always be summed up in 1 sentence, maybe 2. This is a log line. Stories with clear, simple messages are always the most effective. And then here are some ways that you can flesh out your idea. The tagline. The tagline is what would be on your poster. The episode count and length is there if it's applicable. If you're creating, like, say, a film and not a television series, you wouldn't need to put this. It would just be a feature film. The genre can be comedy, drama, historical, dramedy, historical, comedy. It can be anything. It literally can run the gamut. I think one of my programs is like an unhinged comedy, a dark comedy, a Western. Like these are all things that you could put there. And then a log line, again, is a brief, usually one sentence summary of a television program, film, or book that states the central conflict of the story, often providing a synopsis of the story's plot and an emotional hook to stimulate interest. I'm sure you see that and you're like, how do you do that? What do you mean? How do you put that in one sentence? Well, I'm going to show you. Okay. For example, not to plug myself, but this is basically my quick pitch page for Riding the D with Dr. Seeds. It's a show that I created. It was on Amazon Prime for a few years, 2 years, and then it's now internationally on Plex TV. So here's kind of the rundown of Dr. Seeds, Riding the D with Dr. Seeds. The tagline, as you can see on the poster to the right, says, "The doctor is in." For episode length, we had 22 minutes for network, 28 minutes for digital platforms. That includes like commercials. And then we also had a short form version, which was the full season 1, 6-minute episodes, which ended up being what I sold. The genre is comedy. I like to say unhinged comedy when I'm in the room just to, spice it up a little bit. And here's the logline. Dr. Seeds, an underground, unhinged, non-licensed psychiatrist, doles out unsolicited medical advice to her patients on the subways of New York City while battling her own very dark past. So in that logline, we're not only getting the character, we're getting the main character, we're getting where she is, what she's doing. And then she's also has something about her that has like a dark past. And that's kind of like the hook. So that's kind of like an example. And honestly, I did want to say and add to the slide about SAG-AFTRA. As an actor and creator, creating my own work in this capacity has been a huge help in my career and professional life. It's helped me immensely. I mean, creating comes to me from like looking for a lack, seeing a lack in our industry, because most of the voices telling their story seem to only lie in a select few, and they were gatekeepers. So it's a pool that a lot of us can't escape, and there's a lot of stories we have to tell. So that's why I created this series you see in front of you, Dr. Seeds. This is my first big one. I created before this, but this was the one that kind of popped off, so to speak. Okay, step 3. Now that we've kind of got the idea together, this is the pitch deck. And then in brackets, I put text. This is the text part, okay? As a writer-creator, I've sometimes started working on the pitch deck before I even write. And this is why it enables me to step-by-step create the world before I dive in textually. I mean, there are times when inspiration strikes, like my latest psychological thriller I wrote was Bathed in the Night. And I wrote that beforehand and just found the answers as I went. But making a pitch deck for a few other series that I'm working on right now has made it much easier to write and organize my thoughts because everything's already laid out. Now, for the text, we start with the quick pitch we discussed before. That is, and all of this should be on the same page, like you saw before. Tagline, episode count and length, as we showed before. If it's not a film, you do this. If it's a film, you leave this out. And then genre, and of course, the log line, one of the most important parts. Okay, so for episodic works, after that quick pitch page, I like to put a pilot synopsis, then a season 1 synopsis. So we're getting both what happens in the first episode kind of really fleshed out, and then what happens in like season 1. For a film, we need a quick film synopsis of what happens during the entire duration. Then comes a page I like to call the world, where you can discuss overarching themes and how the world lends itself to the story. There's a lot of times where we create things that take place in a different timeline, or maybe there's sci-fi and it's a world that unlike our own. These are great places to discuss the world. What's the hierarchy? What's the social structure? How does that tell the story? How does that change the story? If this was put like in a Western setting, it would be totally different than if it was put in modern day New York City. So I think it's really important to discuss your world. Even if it's right now, there's a lot of stuff going on right now. How does that world impact your creation? All right. And then here's one of my favorite pages. From there, you go further to tone, how to compare it to other works. A lot of people, when you go to a pitch meeting, this is the page that a lot of executives want to see. Just like a lot of us who are actors know, you have to show them that you're funny. You have to show them that you can do drama. There's things you have to show. And just like that, we need to also show that we know what we're talking about. And they need to see other points of art to kind of come up with yours. Now, I threw this together in 5 minutes, this 4 thing, and actually, I want to see this thing. So, for example, I put for tone, the wonder of Interstellar meets the thrills of Alien with the action of Doom and the hopelessness of Bird Box. Sounds really awesome. Honestly, I threw that together just to be silly, and like now I want to write it. So that's how you do your tone. That's how you suck them in. They're like, oh, I know what that is. Oh, okay, I see where she's coming from. Because writing The D with Dr. Seeds, to me, It's Always Sunny meets Blue's Clues meets, I was like putting all these things together, and that's how they got it. And I say always use works that exist and are prominent and well known. Please do that. Because if you say this random short film that named Mary, they'll be like, cool, I don't know what that means. Like, you need to cite things that are, sometimes maybe they're not the best things, but if they do lend themselves to yours, what you're trying to create, that's okay. And make sure that they're in the same art medium. So if I'm doing a TV series, make sure I'm doing other episodic programs. If I'm doing a movie, I should use other movies as examples. So this was for a movie pitch that I made up like last night. The pitch deck text, we're still in the text, guys. Hang with me. Okay, next comes character lists and their bios and descriptions. We need to know all about who they are. It doesn't have to be super long, but it's good to just show a photograph, maybe options of people that are names that you would like in those places, maybe yourself. You know what I mean? This is a time to kind of create your dream cast. And all episode synopses for the season 1. If it's a film, then this is where you kind of do the characters and you really stretch maybe the film synopsis so you can get more into the nitty gritty. If they've gotten this far in the deck, maybe they want to know even more. So those are all the basics of what I start with. And when I create a pitch deck, whether it's like with me or someone else, I always do all the text work before even attempting the graphic heavy deck, because we could get through the text portion and it's totally different than what you originally thought of. And then we have to go back and change the imagery. So I always say, like, do that first. All right. Pitch deck assemble. Finally, step 4, we did it. How do you make your pitch deck or assemble it into a slideshow or PDF presentation is really up to you. It's what you're most comfortable with. Some people use Google Slides, like we're using right now. And no tea, no shade. It's just, I use Canva. It's more graphic heavy and I can do a lot more with it. I'm just comfortable with it. And I use Photoshop to create some of the graphics and kind of zhuzh, so to speak, as well as others. And you can gather any image you want for inspiration. Now, this is one of my favorite things because you're selling the idea. You're not selling the deck. So you feel free to use Google and use images that inspire you. You can use gorgeous imagery that you've seen somewhere else. You're not stealing it. You're literally using it for your idea, which then will be created from scratch. But this is just for the pitch. You're selling the idea, not the deck. So that is totally cool. And I love that because I'm such like a collage kind of lady. So this really, really does it for me. And also, if this seems intimidating, you can also hire someone like myself to make your deck. Okay. Let's just say you have your pitch deck, you have all of that together. You have your deck, you have something to bring into the meeting, log lines, all that good stuff. After the work is done, it's time to get these meetings. But I didn't start with a lead agent, which is kind of what you need to get the bigger meetings a lot of the times. In fact, I was someone who crowdfunded one of my productions, Dr. Seeds especially, and then leveraged that completed pilot that I had edited and ready into getting me legit literary representation. And the way I was able to do that was that my agency that I was signed with as an actor had a literary department that I then brought. I was like, hey, I know I can act, but did you guys know I can make things? How about that? And they were like, fine, get her in here. And then they looked at it and they're like, this is great. Let's do it. And that's how I got, the deals that I've gotten from that specific thing. And now I work with that lit agent still today. Love her. Shout out Lene. Okay. But honestly, you need to use your connections first. You need to talk to writers, offer things like points, which is a percentage of ownership. You always start with 100%, and you can give away certain percentage points. And I'm not going to get into the business of that, but you can Google, what do you give an executive producer for a blank amount of money or for an in with something? A lot of times your reps will take 10%, which is excellent to get your show sold, just like an agency. So you guys probably understand that pretty well. And then the last resort, I think, is cold emailing literary agents if you must, but you only should include your log lines at most. So if you have like a list of different log lines of different ideas, that's what you include in the email. Do not include a full pitch deck, a full anything, because the great thing about log lines is they're just vague enough to not have your idea taken. Also, you have a paper trail as well. Have multiple ideas. submit to as many festivals that have pitching components. This was something that really helped me, even with no representation, submitting just my pitch decks to festivals that will take your pitch decks and get you meetings. Many are great. Many different festivals are great. As I cannot promote certain ones here, I will say that I did find great success in appearing at festivals and pitching multiple, many genre encompassing ideas, like having comedy, but then a sci-fi, but then a horror. You don't have to do all that, but I did all that because I'm extra. All right. Now, now we're into the pitching portion of the day. This is kind of like, to me, all that work that you've done, you're kind of already ready, and especially since most people watching this, I'm sure, that are in our union, are talented performers and comfortable in front of other people. Typically, that's really what they want to see, is they want to see that you're a person they want to work with. Because honestly, when it comes down to it, they can staff everything, they can make things happen for you. But if you're not fun to work with, the idea is dead before even anything happens. So once you're in the pitch room, just be yourself. Be fluid, be strong and adaptable. Be obsessed with your idea. Literally, be obsessed with your idea, but not precious. Okay? Meaning, although there are hard lines you can have about the project, this is a collaborative effort. You have to understand it is collaborative still. Even James Cameron collaborates. And when I'm at his level, I'll continue to, and so should you. So take the ego out and put the passion and love in. So that's always greatly helped me. My first pitch meeting that like developed into something so much bigger, we literally didn't even talk about any of the projects I came to bring in. We talked about football and the NFL. That's literally what we talked about, and video games. So we just like vibed so hard. And then that created this like wonderful, real relationship that then turned into something cool. So, sometimes this is where I'm getting into that initial pitch meeting with a network production company, investors, other creatives is really just them getting to know you. And if they like you, then come the projects and ideas, and have a handful if you can, even if some aren't fleshed out. And I've come to pitch meetings in different stages with different projects, like with fully shot episodes, mini proof of concepts, like of a bigger idea, but I didn't raise enough, or I wanted to shoot something like pretty, but like short so they can see where I'm coming from. Maybe just the scripts, but sometimes just a pitch deck or a log line. But for me, the deck is the most imperative thing to have for any concept. It will only make you a better storyteller and collaborative artist. And it just kind of lays it down. And, and that's kind of where I end. Once you've got your meetings, that's really half the battle, is just getting in the room. And then you can get out there and you can make incredible things. And I think that's the beauty in pitching. And these are, if you have any questions, obviously visit sagafter.org, one of my favorite websites. And you can find me on Instagram. That's my most active social media. You can look me up on IMDb, but my website, sarahseats.com, has a pitch deck page where you can contact me about any questions you have.
Amazing. Knock 'em alive, as I say.
Yeah. Knock 'em alive. That's what I mean.
Sarah, that was great. I think, what's really supportive, we hear often these ideas of like, just, pitch your idea, and it feels very vague and ethereal. It's like, well, what does that actually look like? So I love the different pieces that you've broken down. And even if somebody is not ready to start pitching or trying to get meetings yet, it's, for me, I'm looking at this, I'm like, oh, that's a good way for me to like flesh out some of these ideas I have, to start to like create the structure of like, oh yeah, what is it that this would be like? I have this thing, and ways to make it more specific. I would love to hear, you talked about like the elements needed for the pitch deck. Mm-hmm. What are some of the elements needed for the pitch meeting? And maybe a way that we can address that is like, for anybody who hasn't done a pitch meeting,
sure.
Like what happens? You drive there, take the subway, ride the D train, show up.
Get on Zoom. Yeah.
Get on Zoom. Yeah. Like, is it Zoom? Is it in person? And what is the like actual structure of that? If people have never done that before, what should they be expecting?
Well, it's one of those weird, wonderful, wacky things. Like pitch meetings tend to be different, literally, no matter where you go. I've had pitch meetings with like Warner Brothers or NBC. And then I've had pitch meetings with like cool, like streaming platforms that are up and coming, and everything feels totally different because really who you're meeting with is like an executive or a person that's representing that company or distribution platform. It's kind of different every time. Some of them, you'll walk in and they literally just want to get to know you. They're like, "Yeah, where are you from? Where'd you grow up? Like, what brought you? Like, where'd you come up with this idea? Or how'd you get in this industry?" Because everyone kind of has a weird story about why they're here and how they got in. And a lot of times it's really just presenting yourself as who you are, why you feel so drawn to tell this story. Where did the story come from? You know, they love backstories. Like if there's something like this came to me when like for Dr. Seeds, for example, I always was like, you know, I was getting a lot of auditions, but they were all like the girlfriend who has like literally no backstory. And she's like helping the male character tell a story. And she wasn't funny and she wasn't weird and she wasn't interesting. And I wasn't getting a lot of comedy stuff, which is like now I laugh because all I do is I feel like I'm getting comedy all the time because of Dr. Seeds. So, yeah, it's like, where did this idea come from? They just want to meet you. And then I always have ready, and this isn't as much as needed. I always have my pitch deck that I've already sent them, usually through my reps, or they've signed something so they can get the entire deck and look over it. I usually bring either like my laptop to have it on their screen, or they bring it up, or I always have this, since it's kind of like save the trees. So I don't know, printed it out. So I can be like, okay, yeah, as you can see on this page, I get into tone and I get into why this is marketable. Because look at these marketable films. This is all of those together. This is the idea. So really, it's usually like meeting you, talking just casually, getting to know each other. Be sure to ask them questions like, what they're looking for, how did they get into this? Because a lot of their stories are fascinating. And then kind of just telling them about the project that brought you in. And sometimes they'll say, okay, great. Sounds great. Do you have anything else? Then I'll be like, well, actually, I have a horror about blah, 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 or I have a Western or I have another comedy, but it's totally different. And once they're into you, they want to hear more of your ideas.
Yeah.
You know,
two pieces come up for me to your last point. I have a friend who's a successful writer, movies produced, and amazing, like her writing's phenomenal. And I remember her telling me a story. She went into a pitch meeting to pitch, I don't know, whatever the project was. And they said like, oh, that's it. Like, cool. Like, what else do you have? And off the top of her head, she's like, well, I have this script about, a bunch of like suburban moms that like do like a whatever road trip thing and they're they're spies, whatever it was. It was like a random off the top head idea. And her, I think, boyfriend, who's also co-writer, was in the meeting. I'm like, I don't know. We've never talked about this. And they're like, oh, that's really interesting. Tell us more. And then went home and wrote the script over the weekend. And they ended up like picking it. But my point in that, whether you're the kind of person who does that off the cuff, but like having those other ideas, I think is really important. And the other thing that you said that I think is really helpful is it sounds a lot like an agent or manager meeting. It's different, but it's the same thing. Like an agent or a manager meeting, the reps, they want to know you. They want your story. Hopefully they have some sense of your materials. There's a reason they said yes to the meeting, right? It's not, they have some context on who you are. Right. And the other thing that I like about that is that is something I can practice. Like so tell me about yourself. How'd you like, that is a story that I can practice, and I'm doing my own pitch for myself that I can practice. So that's natural. I'm not like, well, I was born in 1999, and like, but that's something that we can actually practice with each other and do that. I'm curious, do you have any other things? Like, you keep saying what I think is really like, they want to get to know you. Are there any other things that you found to be really valuable in like creating that connection so that people are enrolled in who you are and what you're up to?
Yeah. I mean, to me, it's just being real. I think it's really off-putting when people's like, well, I am here to sell you my idea and it's the best idea. I think it's
fell in love with theater in middle school and
love me. No, it's more like, it is like an agent meeting in a way, but it's almost like, I know this is maybe warped, but it's almost like me less pressure because I'm already here. You know what I mean? I got in here. Obviously I didn't sneak in. I'm here, babe. So, and I'm here just to be myself, and let's talk about project, but let's also talk about, the industry. Let's talk about what we're up to this week. What am I doing in town? Or like, I love new, just like, to me, it's like having it's really just a conversation, because this could potentially be a person like an agent too, though, where they're going to be in your life for a long time because they're the ones that were like, you know what? I love this idea. I want to make it. Or I love what you shot. I think I want to get this out there. And that's a wonderful relationship to have. And real recognizes real, truly. I mean, I think once you're in the room, just being yourself and real, it's okay if you're like, God, I'm so nervous. This is incredible to be here. Anyway, here we go. And they were like, somebody laughed because when I went to, I won't say which network, but I went to a network and there was literally a guy in the lobby playing saxophone next to a waterfall. And I was like, what is going on around here? That's incredible. I want that guy to fun. And they were like, yes, dude, we love that guy. So like, it just broke the ice and it was incredible. So, you know what I mean? Just
authenticity. What I hear you saying is authenticity, right? And
yeah.
whether if you're a funny person, if you're a serious like whatever it is, there's no right or wrong way. It's right. Like, just be yourself in that.
Take your ego out and just bring and fear and just bring your like love and self into the room. Yeah.
Do you have any other advice or tips or strategies to overcome that fear, or ways that you practice? Like people say, right, public speaking is the number one fear. And it's a version of public speaking, right? And I imagine there could be nerves. And what the one thing I heard you say is like acknowledging that and being authentic. Like, it's okay if that feeling is there. That doesn't mean you're, not gonna be heard.
Yeah. And it doesn't mean you're not worthy. It doesn't mean anything. In fact, it doesn't mean anything. It just means you're human. So I think moving through that, I feel like I've only gotten better at it, not just from doing it a bunch, but also just being cool with who I am and knowing that you can like me, you cannot like me, but I'm gonna do my best to be, to be myself. And I know that I'm coming from a place of love and creativity. And honestly, we're changing the world. We really are, by making art that is reflective of the world, or things that need to be heard, or things like that. But we're also not surgeons. No one's going to die in this room. I'm not going to be like, well, oh God, I screwed it up. I got to go out now. I'm never going to act again. I'm never going to, it's not the end of the world. It's really just, it's just an opportunity, but it's going to be one of many. And I really do feel like if you are yourself and comfortable, you're good. I know with, over the over the pandemic, that's not really the word, over that time when we couldn't go anywhere. I did a lot of online coaching and acting classes, just because I've been acting for years, but it was like nice to rediscover that part. And I think a lot of like Uta Hagen, or a lot of meditation, a lot of like morning pages and introspective work make you better at being cool with who you are and being expressing that. And then it's only gotten easier for me, because I'm not coming in there being like, oh gosh, they're going to think this about this, or they're going to think that about this. They're going to think what they think. How about you just bring what you need to bring and know that you are enough? That's why you're in the room.
I love that. What makes a great elevator pitch?
Dude, I mean, it's hard to, other than saying like, you got to get them it's got to be interesting from the minute you start speaking. We have to be like, blank, a guy who lives in this world of blank, and then this happens, and then someone's like, "Holy tell me more." Sorry, I swore. Didn't though. I caught myself. Well, I have examples of like one of my favorite ones. It's a log line. It was a quick pitch, and it obviously did well. So maybe you can guess what it is. It's a well-known movie. In a post-apocalyptic wasteland, a woman rebels. Oh, I just missed that. A woman rebels against a tyrannical ruler in search for her homeland with the aid of a group of female prisoners, a psychotic worshiper, and a drifter named Max. So that's Mad Max Fury Road. Yeah, but I really love that, because it's not about like, he's a guy who It's just like, it's talking about a character that's with Max. She was the main driving force of the movie, but that character, what she's doing, and then what she's up against. And then also there's Max, who's the title character. So I think that one was really cool. I think that's what makes it a good thing. I have a couple examples of ones that I've recently done, some of which I've made, so I feel comfortable reading out loud. This is for Bathed in the Night. It's an apocalyptic sci-fi that we've already shot. A girl and her cat wait out the apocalypse in a New York City apartment until a lone night draws her out, leading her to face the darkest parts of the dystopian city below. So like, she's isolated. She sees something in the distance. She goes for it, and things go crazy. So, you know what I mean? It's just stuff like that I think if you pull them in immediately with just like person, where they are, the situation, like even from something that's less like intense, like the apocalypse or whatever, you can be like, Jonathan, after being broken up with for the third time, decides that maybe he's not supposed to be a boyfriend, but a superhero. You know, like whatever. I don't know. You know what I mean? Like I don't know what that is, but maybe like he becomes a superhero because he got broken up with. He's like, you know what? I'm a superhero now. I got dumped too many times. I'm getting better than anything. I don't need to date. I'm just going to be a superhero. So, stuff like that.
Yeah. Well, and what I hear in that too is like painting a picture, right? Like whether it's the feeling, the imagery, whatever it is, that I can get a sense of it in a short amount of time, and that like every word matters, right? It's to the point, like, got it. Okay, cool. Like that. And that specificity is really important there. It's like in a world of stuff, a character faces some challenges. Like, yeah, okay, like, but what is this world? What is this character? What's unique about this? And every piece matters. And that from there you can expand. And I think that's the piece I know for me that is sometimes challenging, because it's like, but there's this character and there's this idea and in this episode, and there's like so much stuff, and bringing that down to like, okay, what is the heart of it? What's the core of it? And then if that's intriguing, we can expand and like, oh yeah, as you see here, yeah, halfway through the season, I have this whole other piece that happens, and like we can get into it if we have that specificity. Right.
And having such specificity, people could look at that and be like, wait, is that limiting? It's like, no, because it's just like an improv. When you understand the game, you know, the rules, if you're doing long form improv, which I love improv. So it's like so of course pitching is fun to me too, because I can be like, well, guess what? You know, like, but improv is another skill to be working on actually. Because just like your friend, I've been in the room where I've been like, I do have something else, because the first meeting I had, I didn't have something else, you know, and I was like, I do. And it became something that I'm actually fully pitched out and made a pitch and I get meetings for. So you never know. But yeah, improv, just like that. It's like making a pitch deck doesn't mean that you can't do more, but it's laying it down in such a clear, concise way that people can't deny the idea. They follow it, they get it, and they're interested, you know? Yeah. So.
Yeah. And once you have that specificity, now we can play off of it and be creative. If it's vague, like, I don't know, but it's like, oh, I have this very specific piece. And now, okay, well, what if they were in space or whatever?
Yeah. Like the why, the who, because if anything that's vague is like one of those movies where you watch and you go, I wasn't invested. I wasn't sure where it was going. And I think it just kind of fell apart in the third act. That's because something was not clear.
Yeah. How do you know what ideas are worth creating a pitch deck or pursuing further? Like, I hear you've got, for you specifically, there's all these different ideas. Like, how do you know which ones, I'm actually going to turn this into a pitch deck, or I'm actually going to pursue this one?
Right. Oh, I think it's kind of like, you just know. I know that sounds really weird. But like, I also think too, it's fun to talk to your friends who aren't going to like obviously steal your ideas, but like, or when you have like, let's just say you have like 8 or 9 ideas floating around, that's a lot, but maybe you have a lot of ideas, you have a lot to give, a lot of feelings. And you have all these ideas, and you'll talk them out. Maybe one will make you go like on a tangent. Like there was something recently we did in a writer's room that I was in where they said, write something, or just like a log line, just write a log line that in a genre that you've like never attempted, never have wanted to attempt, never even thought of. And I was like, Western. And then I wrote this log line and I was like obsessed with it. And I was like, I have to do this. I have to do more with it. I didn't think that was going to be the one that month that would make me go, yes, I must write more. Because I was thinking about women in Westerns. How are they portrayed? Barely. And if they are they're never the main character. And if they are a character in the thing, it's usually victims. It's usually, people of color in Westerns. Like there's so much less of a lack of that. I know now it's getting better because there are like cool Westerns that came out recently that have more diversity and more actuality to the situation. But I never seen like a truly female-led Western. So then I just made one. I was like, wow, I have to do this. Like something in me is doing this. For me, I also look at like current events, what's happening in our world. And I'll be like, man, I'd love to write an idea about this feeling, or a woman going through this, or a man in this place going through that. Like sometimes things you'll think of like many ideas, but something will really like make you passionate, or make you see, like you look around and you go, I've never seen this before. Like no one had ever written a series about a woman on the train, a complete series that takes place in the entire on the New York subway system, which is crazy because the New York subway system is crazy. So how has no one done that? I mean, I know why it's a nightmare. But I wanted to make it because I was like, we have never had a show on the New York City subway. What? And that's what made me do. So I think a lot of it's like, you'll see the lack or see something that you haven't seen before and it's all in there and you've got to make it.
Yeah. Last question here. Any other resources for pitching? You talked about some of the like specifics on like the pitch deck and some of the available resources that are out there for like the deck itself. Any other good resources to use when pitching for this overall process?
Yeah, I think what I like to do too recently, and this is something I've actually recently done, is I'd like to go on IMDb and see what the description is of movies that I love. How do they describe them? How do they, like, if I covered the title and just read the log line, what is it giving me? And it kind of prepares you to have that mindset of like a general but specific mindset of how you would describe your idea. IMDb is really helpful to me for a lot of reasons. Also, when I make pitch decks, especially for film, I like to put comps of like what this movie made, what this movie made. Look at my idea. I think we can make it for this, but look how much we'll make in streaming and in the box office. And they'll be like, like it's such a great resource. IMDb is such a great resource to see who's writing, how many female writers were in something, how many writers of color. Do you see yourself in this movie? Let me look at the description, look who's cast, look who wrote it and created it. Let me also look at their other work. It's kind of cool to see like how people can be fluid and make all sorts of things and wonderful things. So IMDb is a great thing. I know that's maybe sound obvious, but it is. And then on Google, I always look for like the 100 best log lines of all time or like the greatest log lines. Or I like to look up the Stranger Things show Bible, which is basically an all text version pitch deck, but it's a show Bible that's much longer. Usually you go into a lot more detail in terms of plot and other seasons and everything. Their show Bible is incredible. And they shopped that thing around like 10 years, but it was always good. So like, yeah, I use the internet a lot to like kind of reinforce and remind me that how much is possible. And also how big, huge movies like The Godfather can be condensed into like one sentence. And it's very possible.
Yeah. I'm a big fan of the book Good in a Room by Stephanie Steiner. Big fan of that for any readers out there. The other thing you mentioned that I just want to make sure everybody's clear on before we wrap up here, you mentioned the show Bible. For people who are newer in this world, the pitch deck is like the synopsis, summary, high level. And then the show Bible would be this episode, this is what happens, whatever. Yeah. My question is, do you need the show Bible in order to like, if you have the pitch deck, do you need the show Bible for your pitch?
I don't think so at all. I think that it's good to have it read. If you want to, so if you're, let's just say a company goes, wow, you came in with a deck, you might not have a script. That's cool too, because a lot of times, especially now, networks and streaming platforms and other things, especially networks and Netflix and big ones like that, they want to create a writer's room and create it too. They want to have a collaborative effort in the script. But if you have the script and it's amazing, awesome. I've already written season 2 for Dr. C. It's like, there's other things I've written. So that it's good. I feel the same way about a show Bible. Always have a log line in your pitch deck and your pitch is ready and organized. And it has to be very concise up here and you can sell it. A show Bible kind of comes next or later. If they're interested and they really want to see lots more, you can take that deck. You've already created the text format and just expand on that. But again, if you want to be super prepared, totally, you can use that. I just don't want actors and us as creatives to get caught up in like, I need this, and this, or I can't even walk in the room. I'm not ready. Whereas like I walked in the room, like that's why I purposely put in my slide, I can walk in the room with just a log line or like your friend and I have before an idea that I was like, oh God, they want something horror. Okay. It's about a kindergarten class and these kids have just eaten the wrong type of snack. It's got something in it. Now they're killer kindergartners. You know what I mean? Whatever. I just made that up. That's totally something I just made up right now. But you know what I mean? Like you have to be able to do that. And you're not going to have a show Bible for that. But, right. But that's just something that comes later. That's something that once you have your pitch deck ready, you're kind of already there. You just have to really elongate more information. You can get into like comparisons of different studies, scientific studies that support what you're saying. You get into the costuming more. You can get into the, it's just a longer form, just text, basically. It can be like 50 pages. You know what I mean? As much as you can throw in. I think Avatar for James Cameron was like an 80-page treatment, before he had even written anything. He just wrote 80 pages about it.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Any final thoughts or advice for our viewers?
Honestly, don't stop yourself. I've done this. Don't be a perfectionist about your ideas. Don't be precious. The world needs to hear them. And I think it's very important that you do everything you can to get them out. I think as artists, it's extremely important for us to create. We're in an industry where sometimes you're waiting, or sometimes you're not on set all the time, or you're not getting opportunities. I think you should create your own. It's very empowering. And especially with like SAG-AFTRA, a lot of this is possible because I'm in this union, because I'm protected, because I know which contracts to use. And they'll help me if I don't, which I don't sometimes a lot. I'm like, okay, I want to produce this thing, but I'm not sure which one to use. Like all these things, and the community that we have here of professionals and talented people, and staff, which are wonderful. I think it's very important, to allow that to empower you. Because the better we all do, the better I do, the better Ben does, the better anyone does. It really lifts us all. So I just think that please don't stop yourself because you don't think it's perfect. Nothing is perfect. And a lot of the things you think are perfect, like I thought Dr. Seuss was a perfectly well, as much as I could be perfect, was a perfectly conceived pitch. It ended up changing in filming entirely. We went from shooting on the actual train to building our own set, which was warped and weird, and it couldn't have been better. So allow yourself not to be a perfectionist and allow your ideas to come out. Don't stop yourself. Don't let yourself be the gatekeeper. There's plenty. So don't be that yourself.
Don't say no for them. Beautiful. Well, Sarah, thank you so much for taking the time to be with us here today. So helpful. For anybody who wants to see Sarah's talents in action, you can catch her in the feature films The Mint and American Fango on Amazon, and keep a lookout for her in the upcoming dystopian sci-fi thriller Bathed in the Night. As a reminder to everyone watching, this presentation is available as a replay on our YouTube channel, along with the whole library of programs on important and informative topics for our members. So have a watch, send it to your friends. And on behalf of the whole team here at SAG-AFTRA, thank you so much for watching. And a special shout out to our regular viewers who've been tuning in each week for our educational live streams. If you have ideas for topics you would like to see us cover, send us your pitch at pteoe@sagaftra.org. And before we go, if you haven't already, go ahead and subscribe to SAG-AFTRA's YouTube channel to get updates on all the content we are publishing. Thank you so much and have a great day.